NCT's Renjun has dealt with a lot of Sasaengs lately, and it's been crazy to witness. Even though he's been on hiatus because of his anxiety for 2 months now, obsessive fans still found ways to violate his privacy and make him feel bad. It came to a point that he went on Bubble multiple times just these past few weeks to call out these fans and try to scare them into leaving him alone. People were hoping that the company would do something about it, especially since the incidents that Renjun had mentioned were pretty scary. Fans were taking his pictures on airplanes as he was sleeping, calling him multiple times a day, and selling his information. You would think that this is when the company decides to step in and take measures of their own, but since this is SM Entertainment, that never ended up happening. So due to SM not taking any action, Renjun went on Bubble on June 20th, and true to his words, he exposed who he thought was a Sasaeng. He shared a phone number and a message warning them to stop calling him and said that they had been calling him non-stop. While initially he was praised for giving stalker fans a taste of their own medicine, it was then revealed that the number he had exposed didn't belong to a Sasaeng at all, just a normal person who had been unfairly involved in all of this. Once the woman started getting calls and messages, she made a statement saying that she wasn't a Sasaeng as they had no interest in celebrities whatsoever, and clarified that she called a number thinking it was her friend in an attempt to wake them up. According to the woman, she saves the contacts of her friends with the last name included, so she just searched for their first name and called the number thinking it was her friend. However, Renjun was the one to pick up, and when the woman expressed confusion about who she was talking to, he assumed that she was a Sasaeng and threatened to report the number before hanging up. The woman, as expected, found the interaction very strange, but then found out she had called the wrong number, providing evidence that she called her friend right after wrongfully dialing Renjun. However, the victim then started receiving strange calls from unknown numbers. She wrote, "I thought that the number I miscalled earlier was a voice phishing scammer. Every time I hung up, another call came in. Even overseas calls came in along with an overload of text messages. The whole thing was so bad that she actually thought she had messed up with the head of a gang because people had sent her random messages insulting her, threatening her, and telling her to leave Renjun alone in some very deranged ways." It was then that she assumed that they had accidentally called a celebrity, as she recalled hearing about idols being called by Sasaengs while they were doing live streams. This is when the woman decided to do some digging and saw that Renjun had indeed exposed her number on Bubble, which freaked her out so much that she went to change her phone number immediately. However, once she explained the situation to the people at the store, they instead urged her to go to the police. The police then told the victim to try and call Renjun's number, but he obviously didn't pick up, so the officers ended up leaving a message. It was then that they managed to get in contact with the manager and had a conversation. The woman said she overheard the conversation in which the manager apologized on Renjun's behalf, but said that they couldn't delete the message because it was impossible to delete Bubble posts. They also said that they would try to block idols from exposing phone numbers, but still denied the victim's credibility and said that there's a possibility that she could indeed be a Sasaeng. She wrote, "Calling a number by mistake is wrong, but is it okay to expose a regular person's number publicly without checking the facts?" After everything, she ended up changing her number, but gave the police her family's phone number so they could reach her when there were any updates. This would happen just a few hours later when the victim was contacted by the officers saying that SM's legal team felt apologetic about what had happened. The woman, however, didn't receive any apology call from SM at that point, nor did she get an explanation from the company, so at the end of her statement, she asked the company to respond to her as she's been dragged into this unfairly. Once this became an actual controversy, netizens started feeling sorry for the victim and asked Renjun to apologize. They called him out on his method of exposing Sasaeng, saying that he shouldn't hide behind the managers whenever he messes up, especially since there was an innocent civilian involved. A commenter also wrote, "If the idol checks his call list, he can see if they called him once or many times. Why is he like this? I hope the victim sues." Another wondered whether the victim's story was even true to begin with and asked her to provide proof that the friend used to have the number that belonged to Renjun. While she didn't specifically address what she had been asked to do, she posted the registration number she got at the police station, which was dated June 20th. At the request of fans, the woman also posted the receipt of the taxi ride to the police station, as well as her subscription list, so everyone would be sure that she wasn't subscribed to Bubble. She also stated once again, "I called the number that was saved with friend A's name, but that happened to be Renjun. I don't know why Renjun's number was saved under my friend's name. After I heard him say, 'I will report you,' I was taken aback." Most of all, netizens were taken aback that the victim was requested to post so much proof of their innocence when Renjun could just file a report to the police if he thought that she was lying. After the issue became so big that it couldn't be ignored, SM finally released a statement addressing the situation. They apologized for Renjun exposing the number and for what the victim went through, and went on to say that they had spoken with the head investigator who informed them of what the victim had gone through. They also apologized apologized to the investigator and went on to delete the message that caused all of this. The company then asked people not to call the woman again and called Lundgren's actions foolish, saying that he was reflecting on what he had done. SM's response, Lundgren's lack of apology, and the whole situation in general had the fans and netizens divided. Some international fans of Lundgren insisted that there was no way that the victim wasn't a Sasaeng since they had access to Lundgren's number. They also tried to find inconsistencies in her statement. The owner of the number had claimed that they didn't have a Twitter account, so she posted the statement through a friend's account. However, she ended up opening an account later so she could post all the evidence that the netizens asked for. But even though there's a reasonable explanation for why the owner has an account in the first place, she was called a liar and was told to apologize to Lundgren for creating this situation. The victim then later exposed SM for not apologizing to her personally, despite the fact that they had made a public statement. According to the woman, the company's legal team had told her that they would contact her with an apology, but she never ended up receiving one. SM then received backlash for lying to the public and not treating the victim how she should have been treated, especially after all she had gone through because of some crazy fans. Lundgren also ended up receiving backlash and was made to ultimately apologize. On June 21st, he made a post on Instagram saying that even though he wanted to use his music and performances to give good energy, his judgment was clouded and he made a rash decision. He apologized to the victim for his behavior and asked fans to stop calling her. While this is your typical apology, with Lundgren apologizing to the victim directly while also holding himself accountable for his actions, his words were called insincere, and he was also called out for not admitting that the victim wasn't a Sasaeng. A netizen wrote, "You should apologize with more sincerity and pay for the damages you've caused. You should have said that the person was not a Sasaeng, that you had made a mistake, and that the person was a victim." However, a good chunk of the fandom has urged Lundgren not to apologize and reassured him that he had done nothing wrong. They blamed SM for allegedly forcing him to apologize and called them out for being so quick to apologize to the victim, but not taking any action to protect Lundgren against Sasaengs as he had been dealing with them for a while. It's understandable why fans feel so defensive over Lundgren, considering that he went on hiatus due to his anxiety and has been basically harassed by Sasaengs more times than he can count. Not to mention the fact that the company has done nothing to stop these obsessive fans, which has resulted in them getting creative and bold in the ways that they stalk and violate the idol's privacy. It's expected for Lundgren, as well as any idol dealing with the same situation, to feel paranoid, angry, and helpless to the point that he has to take matters into his own hands multiple times. As a commenter put it best, SM has provided an environment where there's no punishment for treating their idols like garbage, and until they try to fix that, we are going to continue to see their idols take things into their own hands. In fact, it's the company that's getting most of the blame from fans, especially when they notoriously don't take any measures against Sasaengs. Other companies tend to punish obsessive fans by banning them from different events and fan clubs, suing them, and generally making an example out of them just so the other fans know not to act the same. SM artists, on the other hand, have dealt with some of the worst cases of Sasaengs, including attempted kidnapping and poisoning. Yet the company has rarely taken any action to stop this kind of behavior or even discourage it. Whatever you think of the situation, you can tell that Lundgren was backed into a corner and had no choice but to take extreme choices to protect himself. On the other hand, it's been agreed upon, even by fans, that Lundgren's actions were irresponsible. Even though it's devastating that he's going through all of these terrible things because of stalker fans, exposing one of their numbers wasn't going to solve anything. The Sasaeng probably wasn't even using their own phone number, and giving them attention would only fuel them more. Not only that, but he subjected the victim to a lot of harassment and vitriol just because she happened to call him once on accident. He didn't even make sure that the number had called him multiple times or if it belonged to a Sasaeng before exposing it, and now an innocent woman is being subjected to all kinds of comments and verbal harassment. Fans have even gone as far as to attach her number to explicit tweets, making it seem like they were an escort. So even though SM and Lundgren apologized, the apology has done next to nothing to tame the harassment that the victim is still going through. If anything, fans have gone even more crazy as they think that SM forced Lundgren to apologize, so now they're trying to take revenge for the fact that he's getting criticized by netizens, allegedly because of the company.